It's that beautiful time of year after, school is coming to a close. You get to maybe attend a family member's graduation ceremony and hear a student give an inspiring speech about the future, young people, whether they're college students. You might hear it at a local high school, either valedictorians or a speaker maybe chosen by their peers to speak. So different schools do different things. Maybe a law school where you're looking more towards the professional world of really starting a career that you're about to embark on specifically. So a little bit more, again, tied to a little older student, a little more with more education and kind of a more specific job that you are going to be doing for the world. And that's what we have at City University of New York School of Law. Now, CUNY, because we talked about how at one of their schools, they have multiple undergraduates. At Hunter College, the pro-life students who were tabling there, and we're working with that organization right now at the ACLJ, the pro-life students who were tabling there were attacked by a professor, like an art professor, who attacked their table. Then when the New York Post went to that professor's home, knocked on her door, remember she came out with a machete and put it on the reporter's neck and then chased the reporter down the street with a machete? This is in that school system, but they also have inside the school system they have one law school, the CUNY School of Law, so City University School of Law. And they chose as their speaker, the students chose Fatima Mousa Mohammed as their speaker. Now, I wish I could say that her name isn't going to give away exactly what she's going to say. But unfortunately, in this situation, it does. But it's actually worse than what you're probably thinking, because she doesn't just take hatred towards America. She takes it towards the Jews. She takes it towards the capitalist. She takes it towards law itself. Let's start off with her attack on why even go to law school, Fatima, if you're going to attack the idea of law.
Like many of you, I chose CUNY School of Law for its articulated mission to be law in the service of human needs. One of very few legal institutions created to recognize that the law is a manifestation of white supremacy that continues to oppress and suppress people in this nation and around the world.
So why go to law school? Why spend your time learning the law of the oppressor?
Yeah.
If you think it is, again, a system that is only used to oppress and suppress people in this nation. So she's talking about the United States of America, that our legal system is used as a manifestation of white supremacy to continue to oppress and oppress people in this nation and around the world. I want you to understand, while students selected this speaker, we've already heard from staff members at City University of New York School of Law who said no one speaks there without their speech logo going through the approval process.
Yeah.
This is just bite one.
Yeah, I have to say, this is nothing. You're not hearing like the shocking part yet. This is more the, oh yeah, maybe this is the general liberal, college kid talking point. But yeah, it definitely keeps going.
By the end of this thing, it's like a call to violence in our nation's elementary schools. I'm not kidding you. Should we play one more for people? Okay, let's play it for people again. Let's play a little. We'll give you a little more Fatima. Don't you love funding this with your taxpayer dollars?
May the rage that fills this auditorium dance in the hallways of our elementary schools, in our home villages of Sheikh Jarrah, Aden, Yemen, Haiti, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. May it be rejoiced in the corners of our New York City bedroom apartments and dining tables. May it be the fuel for the fight against capitalism, racism, imperialism, and Zionism around the world.
Because, Logan, if you don't like capitalism, you also can't like Jews.
No. And it gets there.
And we
directly.
And so she said it, capitalism.
Zionism,
and Zionism. So you got to.
The dirty word of Zionism.
The U.S. Free market system, but you also have to dislike the Jews. And let's hope that it starts dancing through the halls of our elementary schools. I'm sorry, Fatima. Our elementary schools are not like the schools run by Hamas, which she also defends in her speech. We'll get to that. She actually defends a recognized terrorist group, because in those schools in Gaza Strip, in Hamas, those little kids are taught to be terrorists, running through their schools with rage. They put on the headbands and the fake AK-47s, and they run through the schools.
We got a lot more to break down from this. Again, state-funded, city-funded university.
We're also looking at what we can do to take action here. There's a freedom of information law. It's called the FOIL law in New York. So we're not just talking about it. We're going to do something about it at the ACLJ. All right, welcome back to Sekulow. The radicalism that we are seeing on our nation's college campuses, this is going to impact us. It already is impacting us, by the way. That's why we're talking about it right here in our own country. Because if you're coming out of law schools in America, this radicalized, that the student body chose Fatima Mohammed, that they thought You know what? She represents us. We are going to choose her as the student body to speak on behalf of all the students here. All of our families are here and all of the professors are there. And by the way, the school has got to still approve the text. Like, if you know, I think she's calling for violence in this. I think there's some lines in here that are not just political statements, but that go too far for a speech of this kind, especially attacking specific racial groups. Like, you should not be able to do that. Attacking Jews should not be acceptable in a speech to a law school. And again, I'm a free speech advocate, but this is not the right place, right? It's not the right place. It's not like the public sidewalk here. This is, again, a school that could have done. If you got up there, okay, let's say that school elected me to give the speech, and I wanted to start with a line of, you know what, Muslims, too many of them are terrorists. So many of them are terrorists, actually, that even even if it's not the majority of them, so many support it. Let's just deport all of them.
Yeah.
I didn't say kill them.
Yeah.
I just said deport all of them. You think they'd let me give that speech?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't give it, by the way. I wouldn't make that speech, but that's just a hypothetical.
Clarify.
She's talking about the destruction of an entire group of people.
Yeah.
Let's continue to plan. I want you to continue to see what your taxpayer dollars go to.
I think for those who aren't watching, because some people are watching, you're going to need to see the visual. So I need to make sure they know this isn't just a student out on a quad making a statement.
This is the formal graduation ceremony.
Yeah, this is the formal cap and gown, the whole nine. So I just want you to have a visual of what you're hearing here. You're not just hearing, because who cares what a student would say, you know, out on the streets, like I said, in the quad, yelling. They always are yelling something. This is at your graduation. So imagine all the families sitting there in the audience hearing this.
In this moment of celebrating who we are, I want to celebrate CUNY Law as one of the few, if not the only law school, to make a public statement defending the right of its students to organize and speak out against Israeli settler colonialism.
She's glad.
Woo!
Yeah, I mean, you see, this law school is supporting her.
Yeah, I like the woo girls.
This is a
for the anti-Israel.
What are they wooing and what are they this law school? First of all, yeah, okay, your law school lets you speak. I mean, see, some of it is she's trying to just talk about basic free speech, which she probably hates. At the same time, what the difference is in this speech, Logan, is she's trying to constantly say that the law school is doing this. Now, we believe her giving this speech, the law school has gotten themselves in trouble because there's federal laws that prohibit you from supporting racism. There's federal laws on the BDS
Yes,
movement.
I mean, they're not talking about that. And this is coming from a place of a public institution.
That she is claiming supports and funds the BDS movement, which then would put their federal funding in jeopardy.
Good.
Right. So, I mean, that's why we are playing through this. This school could face serious consequences. In fact, they took the speech down off YouTube initially. So they figured it out.
They know.
They know. They knew it was not only just going to be a story on TV or something that people would talk about. They know that it could actually have an impact on their financial future. Now, quickly, they had to put the speech back up because you think those kids took that? Imagine those radical kids that they've created at that law school. Do you think they accepted that speech being taken down off YouTube? Absolutely not.
No.
So they still bit right back to them. But they are responsible for creating these Americans who are going to destroy our country if they become the norm, if this thinking becomes the norm. Where are we going to next?
We've got her describing the lens that she needs to process the statement of the school through.
Let's just keep going.
Absent a critical imperialism, settler colonialism lens, our work and this school's mission statement is void of value.
All right. Let's break that one down.
Yeah, that's a bunch of words there because we start getting settler colonialists.
Absent a critical imperialism,
settler colonialism lens.
Okay, that's just one phrase.
Yeah. Absent a critical imperialism, settler colonialism lens, our work and the school's mission statement is void of value.
Okay, so that means
that is
her
the most
school's
pseudo-intellectual college word
she's
salad you've
attacking
ever
her
heard.
school's mission statement because it is. If you can only see it positively through a pro-colonial.
And we can't even figure it out.
No.
If you can't figure this out.
You know what that is? That is what you're saying. Like, this is you are a law school student. You think you're a genius.
You think you're smart.
You use a bunch of words from a thesaurus. And those words, it doesn't even make sense.
No.
But, this is my one hope, is that most kids see this and go, this is a psycho. This is like the kid in my class I don't want to be friends with.
But elected to be the person speaking.
No, I mean, maybe at some of these radical law schools, yes. But if overall we keep them at radical law schools.
Yeah.
Like, aren't most college kids, you would hear this girl and you would go, I don't want to be her friend.
Yeah, we talked about this. It's like, man, I don't want to go to college right now. It sounds so not
if
fun.
this is what it's like.
I know.
College used to be cool.
Yeah, yeah.
You went to college to go have some fun. I think the SEC is still pretty fun.
Yeah, I think there's probably still fun happening, but not in the CUNY Law system, clearly.
No, I think fun there is just burning the Israeli flag.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the American flag.
What'd you guys do this weekend? Oh, it was a
denounce
rager.
Jews.
Yeah.
Yes, we ate hummus and denounced Jews.
Yeah, all right. Should we take a phone call?
Okay, what about the terrorism support?
Oh, do we have that too?
Because she actually does call for. She actually, of course, the Muslim speaker student attacks the U.S. justice system for imprisoning terrorists who funded $12 million to Hamas.
Here's a very quick bite. Yeah.
That there are Palestinian political prisoners like HLF in U.S. prisons.
That's the Holy Land Foundation, indicted by those individuals were indicted by the Department of Justice in 2009 because they sent illegally $12 million to a U.S. recognized terrorist organization, Hamas, in the Gaza Strip, which regularly carries out terror attacks against Israel, an ally of the United States, that has also carried out terrorist attacks that has killed Americans. Yeah. So she's defending that as well.
Yeah, I think part of it has to do with, I mean, obviously this is a Muslim student, but even in this, I put this in maybe the people that elected her, the people that are cheering, all these type things, is you are 20 plus years now post 9/11. Huh. So that means these kids were either not born or I guess they were probably very young. Yeah. Let's say at most they were 4 years old.
They weren't living it.
They weren't living it. They don't understand what it actually felt like to go through. And the further you get away from it, the further, especially with the conversation shifts and the topic shift, and you have more of sort of the liberal talking points winning the day in media, this is what happens.
Yeah, I think this is, again, you get to a level where reality is void of reality. You go to law school to practice law. When did you go to law school just to become a hate speaker? Or how is she going to pass the bar exam? I hope she's very smart, because obviously the school wasn't teaching her anything about that. What does she know about contracts? Could she help you if you were in a family law dispute? If you were in a divorce, could Fatima represent you? Could she help you with setting up a will or filing a document in a court system? Or is she just going to law school to learn to hate America and to burn down the system? Well, then why even go learn about the system? Isn't that a waste of time? Or is Fatima a hypocrite who is going to go work in the legal system to make lots of money and work for that exact colonial system that she says she wants to burn down, but a few years from now, looking back, will say, well, I was a crazy college student then. I hope so.
Yeah, that's what you hope.
The hope is that
time affects all of us.
But what scares me is that I've got young kids who are going to go through these systems. I'm like, where would I even want them to go at this point?
For college?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And then law school, you're like, it's even worse. The higher up you go,
I think that's going to happen.
the more nerdy, the higher up you went, the more nerdy and mundane and boring it got.
Yeah.
Now it's like the higher up you go, the more radical and crazy it is.
Yeah, and I think that it used to be when if you got two resumes in front of you, they always say one had a college degree, one didn't. Other than that, they match. You would go with the person with the college degree. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Now I'd be like, where's this coming from? Yeah, okay. Did you survive this or did you embrace this?
Yes. Were you there as someone hiding in the corner?
Yeah.
Or were you also stomping on our flag while you were attending the school?
Yeah, and now there's probably photo and video evidence of all of it, unlike when you were in college.
They put it up themselves.
Yeah.
For TikTok views.
I like the way you said that. It was a nice alliteration. It was kind of like the same alliteration as critical imperialism, settler colonialism, which is just fun to say. That's like a Dr. Seuss for
I can't even
anti-American speech.
There's so many things contradicting themselves in that sentence.
Yeah, I know.
And to see it through a lens.
And we're laughing about it, but it's not something to laugh about because the issues are far deeper than just one person's speech.
I don't laugh. I mean, you do have to keep some humor to a fight in America. I don't think this is a one-off. I think this is pretty normal inside higher levels of education now. We don't always get it caught on camera, but when we do, we need to expose it because we're all making those decisions, right? About our kids being going to school. Hey, at the ACLJ, we want you to keep going to law school. We always need to, we're always hiring new attorneys and new people who go to law school. Thankfully, there are still some law schools left that you can trust sending your kids to. Regent University is one of them.
Yep, absolutely.
Where we've I will tell people, our latest two hires for ACLJ, both Regent University School of Law grads.
At least know they've had an idea of what's going on.
You know, we also know that at Regent, which is more conservative leaning, they actually learned how to practice law. That's why their bar passage rate is higher than any other school in the
Not
state
just
of Virginia.
activism.
Right. There's a part of those classes, of course, you can take, like the COD law class, the ACLJ type classes.
Yeah.
But that's not the focus. The
fun
focus
one.
is practicing law. You know, I will read this comment from Comfort and Joy out on Rumble. Said, we all need to go to law school at Regent to become local judges. And you know what? Also, I would add to that local DAs. But that's what Regent is doing, and schools like that are doing. As obviously, they encourage that. Students to go into the government, to go into those places to affect change, not just from the outside like we do at the ACLJ, but also from the inside. And I will tell you, those Regent graduates, law graduates, have actually learned how to practice law. So when they get into the interviews, they're very impressive. You could put them up against any other law school student because even the very, very top 1% of the kids who go to the Ivy League law schools right now, most of them are not on an actual legal education track. They are on a social justice track, which means when they finish law school, they take a 6-week bar exam class, and they hopefully pass the bar because they're smart enough generally
To learn.
to put that knowledge in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because they don't learn it in law school.
They're there to become the next senator, president,
Regent
or
is
governor.
the number one bar passage rate in the state of Virginia. That's with schools like University
UVA
and George
Virginia
Mason,
Tech.
W&L,
Yeah.
William and Mary. I mean, the list goes on. The reason why is because, again, what I said, they actually teach law. So when you get to that bar review class before you take the bar exam, you've already learned that before. It's just a refresher. We're actually teaching you to become a lawyer, not teaching you to how to burn down flags. By the way, all this activism too. Couldn't she have learned this in undergrad? She need to go to law school.
It
for this?
feels like an undergrad graduation person. It doesn't feel like someone coming from
Well,
law
that's what I
school.
mean. It's like they're not teaching adults.
Yeah. And then we're going to get to, because we talked about the anti-American part of this, it does go even beyond obviously she's talking about that in sort of code with the imperialist,
Capitalism.
but it gets very specific in terms of police and the NYPD. I think we should play that bite. Let's take a listen. This is talking about, the boys in blue in New York. Let's hear it.
And we did all of this in spite of the racism, in spite of the selective activism, the self-serving interests of CUNY Central, an institution that continues to fail us, that continues to train and cooperate with the fascist NYPD, the military, that continues to train IDF soldiers to carry out that same violence globally, a larger institution committed to its donors, not to its students.
So she's saying that if you went to, let's say you served in the IDF but were accepted into the CUNY schools system, you shouldn't be allowed in.
Yeah, and also the NYPD. And I like that she calls out her own university in this part.
Oh,
She
yeah.
and I love that the university approved it. That's like the most New York thing ever, to be like, you know what, in this commencement speech, let's make sure we take our own hits. You know, and
'cause we are just oppressing these students.
Exactly. We know the central institution. We continue to fail them because we're supporting the NYPD. But you know that probably some of the people approving this do feel that way because they're the same people taking machetes to pro-lifers' necks.
I mean, this right. When you put all this together with bigger context, you have a professor. I don't know if we still have the images that we could show people
sure we can find
from
it.
last week, but literally a professor who knocked down a pro-life students table that was there legally, and again, Students for Life, and we're working with them right now at the ACLJ. Then New York Post
you got
goes
an
to
image
the,
on the screen if
the
you're watching.
New York Post goes to the professor's door. Not only does she open a door, she puts a machete on the reporter's neck. This is a professor inside the same school system. So these are not just the kids that have gone radical. The professor then chases them down the street with a machete. These are extremists that want to chop heads off, Logan.
Yeah.
Have we seen that before? Yeah. It was called the Islamic State. Mm-hmm. And they're right here in our own country. At our own schools, teaching kids that this is the way to behave.
Let's go ahead and take some calls. Let's go first, actually, to Bill, who's calling in Wyoming on line 3. Bill, you're on the air.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I'm really flabbergasted because this young lady making all these speeches, what she's saying is that if anybody wants to set up a business to make money, like selling olives, selling fish, or clothing, apparently they're white racists no matter what country they're from. And America and these other countries are in their SOFA agreement, which means if the country doesn't want us, they can kick us out anytime they want to. She's arguing against something.
Yeah, listen, it's this idea, it's this false narrative that somehow we're the worst country to live in the world. But, she's an immigrant from Yemen. I don't see in her speech she's saying, I can't wait to take my skills that I've learned here as a woman who gets to give this proud speech and move back to Yemen, where guess what? If I tried to give a speech on the street, they would put me in prison because I'm a woman. Okay, so she's a proud Muslim, except for she wouldn't go back to those countries.
No.
Let me see how long her just speaking on the street, even if her content wasn't something they necessarily disagreed with. You don't have a right to do that in those countries, which are, by the way, Iranian-backed terrorists, failed terrorist states.
Let's keep going the calls. Let's go to Chris in Nevada on line 2. Chris, welcome.
Hi. 2 points. One, I doubt she wrote that speech herself. And 2, if a Christian student were to talk about Jesus, they wouldn't even make it to the podium. Thank you.
You know why they would make it? Unfortunately, at this school system, there's no way that student would have been chosen by the student body. Even if they were talking about Jesus as a compassionate leader, not even Jesus as a religious savior, but just as a figure throughout history that we should all want to be more like Christ-like and peaceful and loving and caring about our neighbors, especially at a time where crime is on the rise and drug crisis is on the rise. You could actually see how that speech would work at this time right now in New York, where you could use examples of leaders who have taken love and peace, but go to the streets with that. But again, would never happen because this is not a one-off student getting up to be a jerk. This is who the students chose to speak and who the school approved the speech from. And it's the same university system where professors chase you down the streets with machetes.
Speaking of that, we do need to quickly bring up a victory they had in the ACLJ.
That's right.
Kind of divert real quick. We only have a couple minutes, but I think you should talk about that.
We talked about this. There was a situation ago in a Tennessee middle school student who wore a cross around his neck to school. When the child entered the school library for a book fair, he was greeted by a teacher who took the cross off the student's neck. Once we were made aware of the alarming incident and the student's mother contacted us, we sent additionally a legal letter to the school explaining in detail why the teacher's actions were inexcusable and a violation of the student's right, not to mention psychologically harmful to the child as well. I mean, there were some demeaning words there said. The school has reached out to the ACLJ, has also worked with the students and the student's family to right the wrong. I'm not going to get into more details of that because some of these cases, again, involve students and young people. We can't get into everything. But I do want to say that because the ACLJ and your support of the ACLJ, we stepped up and resolved this for that student and their family in the school system, and they're able to return to school, next year's school year without fear that this is going to happen again because they wear a cross, and that without fear that they are going to be somehow retaliated against because they spoke up against the school system.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a big victory here at the ACLJ.
Those are one of those
ones
quick
that seem
victories.
Small, but they're not. They're quick, but still months, by the way, of work.
Oh yeah. It's just, I think what I want to explain to people is there's no case too small. We've really been encouraged that more of you are reaching out to us. We want to remind you that we're here for you. If you feel like your rights have been violated, your kids' rights have been violated, you contact us at aclj.org/help. That's aclj.org/HELP. And right there, you put in your information, an ACLJ attorney will contact you, and don't feel like it might not be right for the ACLJ. We'll let you know if it's not. If it's not something that's in our wheelhouse that we can do as the ACLJ, we'll let you know. But if you're not sure, lean on the side of, let me send it to the ACLJ, let me see. And we will, again, we go through it ourselves, folks. I mean, so I'm going to be reviewing it. If you send it in, aclj.org/help.